So Denis is confirming that Feyd will be showing up. And we've already had this from Roger, who does the stunts on Dune. But yes, they've already prepared to have Feyd be a big part of Part 2. And the reason that they did not have him was, as Denis puts it, he didn't feel it would be elegant to have him in Part 1 because there were already too many characters and he wanted to concentrate on those characters. But he does add that one of his favorite characters is Jessica. And I think this is one of the issues I had with Part 1 is it was much too focused on Paul and Jessica. Obviously, they're important players, so it makes sense to some extent. And I did appreciate them having a lot of Duncan Idaho, but it felt very imbalanced. We only got a little bit of the Baron. We barely got any of the Mentats, and a lot of what was shot with Gurney wasn't shown. So overall, it felt a little imbalanced in terms of why he focused on the people he focused on. And he says this is sort of going to continue because although Feyd, he promises, will be a big part of Dune Part 2, we're also going to get a lot of Chani, or Shani as I sometimes call her. So Zendaya will also be a big part of Part 2, and that probably will rankle some people. Now, despite what people think, I don't hate Zendaya. I mean, she's basically a cameo in Part 1, so it's very hard to judge whether she did a good or bad performance. But I am kind of worried he's going to try to overbalance for her being just a cameo in Part 1 and make a lot of efforts, even if it's not in the book, to keep including her in scenes and in terms of the plot. So it looks like he is still going to concentrate on Paul and Jessica, but we're going to get a lot of Chani and a lot of Zendaya, and presumably maybe bounced by Feyd. There's no indication in terms of some kind of nightmare situation where she's going to be the main hero, she's going to fight and defeat Feyd, or something like that. I think for the most part, given Part 1, I expect Denis to stay mostly faithful to what was done in the books, but he did change quite a lot with Part 1, so I expect he's going to do some similar things, and he's going to add a lot of twists. It's not going to follow the books exactly. Zendaya may have a very major role that is not in the books, but is going to be in Part 2. Again, I don't mind that overall as long as we have some balance. Because again, presumably he says that a lot of characters we didn't see in Part 1, including a lot of the Fremen, because we really only get technically Stilgar and Laet Kynes and a few others. Hopefully the Part 2 will get us a lot more of Fremen culture and a lot of the other Fremen, because there are quite a few of them. Yes, they're minor characters, but I do think they fill out the story. So again, no need to panic, but it is sort of mixed news in terms of what to expect from Part 2. So we are going to get Feyd, we're going to get a lot of Chani, and we're going to get a lot of Jessica. And presumably things that we expected to happen in Part 1 will be occurring in Part 2. But again, it will happen with sort of the Denis Villeneuve style and sort of the, whatever you want to call it, additions as well as subtractions that they've decided to do with their screenplay. Some good news, but some bad news in terms of, so good news and bad news in terms of what's shaping up with Dune Part 2. Again, I think mostly I'm reassured by what Denis is planning, but again, it did seem clear that he wants to do a very big part of the story with Paul and Jessica as well as Chani, because he's very impressed with Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet and how they were able to do their acting scenes together. But again, a lot of this may have been cut. We didn't see it. So it's kind of hard to judge because, again, we mainly got Chani as a set of visions. We really don't have her with sustained interactions. So this could go either way, where him giving Chani a really big emphasis could really elevate the project, but it could also prove very frustrating for at least a part of the Dune fandom. Thanks for listening.